This program is scheduled for one fall.
Glorious! No, I won't give in till I'm victorious.
Oh, it's true.
And I will defend.
Cheers. Hello. My name's Silent Mark. You're listening to This Program is Scheduled for One Fall. Nice to see you today, ladies and sirs. Tonight's show is sponsored by John Cena's Vegan Barbecue. Because the John Cena's Vegan you see, that would have worked. No,
try again.
No,
Do it
I'm
again.
not having that.
Do it again.
I'm not having it.
Do it again.
Yep, stop that. Come back.
And
right.
do it properly this time.
I'll do it properly. Here we go. Because it's a good joke. Can you guess what it is yet?
No.
Okay.
Oh, wait. I think I know.
Good, yes.
I think I've got it.
Thank you.
Let's see if I'm right.
Okay. So, blah, 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 blah. Thank you, Mr. Rude. So, welcome, ladies and sirs, to This Program is Scheduled for One Fall. My name is Silent Mark, and I'm your host for this evening. We're going to be talking about wrestling, all sorts. And tonight's show is sponsored by John Cena's Vegan Barbecue. Because John Cena's Vegan Barbecue, you can't see meat.
There it is.
Thank you very much.
Boom.
Thank you very much. On tonight's show, on tonight's show, you can hear us talking about wrestling. We're going to be arguing quite a bit tonight.
Why is Greg groaning? Greg, you love terrible puns.
You do. So let me introduce my colleagues for this evening.
Yeah, I'm not here yet, am I?
No.
Okay. Bye.
Introducing first. Journalist, Beyond Radio's very own resident, author of Holy Grail, and the man who could be described as the human version of Cyril Sneer, it's Greg the Truth Lambert.
You forgot the bastion of broadcasting.
You're not allowed to say that on air, sir.
The Archduke of the airwaves. Basically, I'm a wrestling wogan.
You're dead.
No, I'm a broadcasting legend.
All right.
When it comes to wrestling,
I'm really annoyed that I got that joke wrong.
Yeah, I know.
I'm really
I know.
annoyed about it.
You prepared that.
I know.
Some love went into that joke. I can tell.
I was so proud of that joke when I was at home.
It was good.
I thought of it and I had
It
a
was
smile
good.
on my face for ages.
Yep.
It just didn't work properly.
I liked it.
Thank you.
Anyway.
So how was your week, Greg?
Oh, my week was amazing.
Good.
It was really good, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah. Good tonight. Good tonight as well. No, hang on. Not finished yet.
What?
Not finished yet.
Okay.
Just wanted to point out that this evening, my man Chris Ridgway's match has been announced for Alpha Omega Wrestling Remember.
Well,
on
we'll
November
talk
the
about that
12th.
in a bit.
Yeah. Big news.
All right.
Headline news.
We've got almost an hour. It's fine.
We have. We've got time for it.
Let's make sure we allocate plenty.
All right, fair enough. Anyway, on the other side of it, introducing his opponent. Human, co-host and co-creator of another Monday evening show, Alpha Omega Wrestling's very own interviewer, and a man whose spirit animal is the constipated Slender Loris. It's Evil Lewis.
I don't know about slender, but otherwise, bang on.
I just like the name Slender Loris.
I prefer a slow Norris. Similar,
Similar,
but not quite the
but
same.
not quite.
Yeah.
How's it going, sir?
It's going well,
Good
thank
week?
you. Very good.
Good.
Always.
Anything special?
No, other than all the good things, it's going well.
Good.
It's been going well.
I'm glad.
And I'm very pleased that my campaign to stand up to Greg's perverse chicanery has gained so much support. It's been really good,
It's been a good one.
I stand with the correct, rightful, just majority.
For those of you who missed last week's show and have missed all the posts on Facebook,
Where have you been?
Where have you been?
Where have you been?
I'm disappointed in
Catch
all of
up.
you.
It's all on the Facebook page and on the network.
It is.
The TPISFOF network
the
on
TPISFOF
YouTube.
network on YouTube.
Yeah, it's all there.
Basically, last week on the show, Greg played shenanigans
Totally.
with regards to the rules.
Who'd have thought it, eh?
Of,
Greg Lambert causing shenanigans. I don't know.
Not true.
of fantasy wrestling. And me and Lee weren't impressed after the show, so we took to YouTube and did some videos there.
And it turns out we weren't the only ones who were unimpressed.
We weren't. We ended up getting 5 more people, 7 in total, to have a bit of a strike.
A landslide majority.
Yeah.
And then Greg, earlier today, took to Facebook. You did to basically...
Wasn't it this morning in your dressing gown?
cashmere dressing gown.
Ooh, fancy. To basically announce that you'd banished us all from the league.
Let me explain.
So now you have a league of 4.
Let me explain.
One of
it in
whom
a
isn't
slightly-
even really playing. So essentially, you've got a league of 3.
Let me
Some league.
No. Let me explain it in a more articulate, slightly less clumsy way. Yeah, you all went on strike on a fantasy wrestling game because you didn't agree with the rules. On a fantasy wrestling game, guys.
That's right.
You went on strike on a fantasy wrestling game.
Yes, we've established
what
that.
kind of low-level, bottom-feeding, inappropriate behaviour is that? I mean, seriously, it's just not cricket, is it? I mean,
No, you're right. It's
not
fantasy
cricket.
wrestling, yeah.
yeah, quite. So, in the end, I gave you a deadline to fall into line, to make the necessary changes to your teams in order to remain within budget and remain within the rules of fantasy wrestling. I then extended it benevolently. I extended the deadline.
Because you were terrified that you'd have no league without 7 of the teams.
No. I did it out of the goodness of my heart, and I also did it to allow extra time for negotiations with prospective replacements for you 7 militants.
But mainly because you were terrified you'd have no league without 7 of the teams.
As the midnight deadline of Wednesday has now passed, I'm afraid, Mark, I'm afraid, Lewis, and I'm afraid the other 5 people who had stood together with you in pointless solidarity, about as pointless as David Otunga, I'm afraid you've been expelled from the league.
Oh, what a shame.
We'll talk about most of that in the fantasy wrestling thing in a bit.
During
So-
the Fantasy Wrestling Report, no doubt. Coming up round about 9:30.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, around then.
That sounds like a good time to do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we should also mention as well,
What?
aside from Fantasy Wrestling Report, I have secured a very special mystery guest for tonight's show.
I don't trust it. I think I've just figured out
Mysterious.
who it is.
Do you?
I think I have.
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. I mean, I've got my suspicions, but I really don't know.
I don't know either.
It could be anyone, so.
I don't know either, but I don't know. I've got this vague idea.
I'll give you a clue.
Yeah.
He's a professional wrestler.
There
you go.
I'd
Okay.
figured as much out.
See if you can work
I'll be
it out.
honest with you. That just ruined my guess.
Oh.
Yeah. So don't matter now. Don't matter. See,
Where the hell were you going with your guess then, Mark?
I'll tell you later.
Okay.
That sounded wrong, didn't
I
it?
am
But
quite worried, yeah.
I've given you this gentleman's phone number,
You
Mark.
have,
I
yes.
not? Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't told you who it is.
Yeah.
Lewis doesn't know who it is.
I wouldn't have given Mark the guy's phone number.
Well,
Mark can send him inappropriate text
No,
messages in
no,
the middle
no.
of the night when he's feeling lonely.
Please don't do that. He will hurt you. What you need to do,
Oh, go on then.
what you need to do is when I give you the signal,
Right.
you just need to ring him.
What's the signal?
Well, I'll just.
Is he going to make the sound of a dying giraffe?
I'll tell you to ring him. I'll tell you to ring him at the appropriate point later on in the show.
Good
Okay.
signal.
Okay, fair enough.
I don't know who it is. I'm guessing you've said it's a professional wrestler. I'm guessing it's someone who's involved in the British wrestling scene. It's probably not John Cena.
Well, he's too busy with his vegan
With his vegan barbecue.
barbecue.
Yeah.
And he's
So proud
and
of-
attempting
so proud of that joke.
meat.
and attempting to tie on Sunday Ric Flair's all-time record for the number of world title wins in the WWE. Not even in the WWE, actually.
Well,
Because most of Ric Flair's were in WCW, or the NWA as it was known prior.
Straight out of Compton. So let's start then with SmackDown.
well, yeah, we could. At the end of the day, we are coming headlong towards WWE's fortnightly pay-per-view.
Oh, yeah,
the next one.
We're going face first
It
into
seems like we only just got over the last one. Whenever that was.
it. Last weekend.
It was so forgettable. It feels like last weekend.
Yeah.
You know. I mean, thank God they're not all going to be fortnightly. Some of them are going to be as far apart as 3 whole weeks.
Wow.
Believe it, yeah. But No Mercy is coming up this Sunday, SmackDown exclusive pay-per-view. It could be good. It
I
could
dunno,
be good.
it-
The last SmackDown pay-per-view, Backlash, I enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know.
This week's SmackDown actually made me a little bit more excited for the pay-per-view.
Promos. Good promos.
Yeah. I'd go with
Promos,
that,
as I
actually.
always say, is short for promotion. And that is what a good promo does.
I don't
it
think
promotes the show.
I don't think you're the only one that says that. That is actually a known thing.
No, I am the only person who says it.
No.
Because in a wrestling sense, This is what a good promo does. It's to get people more interested in the show. It's to get more eyes on the show, more pay-per-view buys, more ticket sales, more interest in general. And
more bums on seats.
More bums on seats, indeed.
There you go.
And I felt that the promos for the main event, John Cena versus Dean Ambrose versus AJ Styles for the WWE Championship, and also the Intercontinental Championship match, which is Dolph Ziggler putting his career on the line.
I was going to say, how about Ziggler and The Miz?
First
Versus
time I've
The
actually
Miz,
wanted
yeah.
to see The Miz.
What an amazing segment that was.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, the emotion we've been seeing from Dolph Ziggler over the past few weeks, consistently, coming across as a guy who is desperate, who feels like he has been wronged by an organisation, by the establishment. But unlike you two and your 5 militant friends, he didn't just spit his dummy out. He's actually going to fight. He's going to stand up and fight, literally, physically fight for what he believes in. But The Miz has just been fantastic as well, showing great emotion, really annoying characteristics.
I do have to say, I love what he did, which was basically just kind of the most elaborate, well put together and well produced insult to Dolph Ziggler that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Just someone who goes to the length of making a full length trailer.
The Dolphumentary.
Just to take the mick out of somebody. I think that's wonderful.
You've got to feel sorry for Dolph Ziggler. When you look back at his WWE career, he was the caddy for Chavo Guerrero, when Chavo Guerrero, for a very short-lived period of time, somebody had the great idea to give Chavo Guerrero from the Guerrero wrestling family, the nephew of the late, great Eddie Guerrero, a gimmick as a wrestling golfer.
It's almost as bad as one of your gimmick ideas, isn't it? Not quite in the same
What
league.
are you talking about?
But it's in that territory.
Hey, I'm the man who came up with Mike Lovejoy, the wrestling council worker, so keep your trap shut. Anyway,
I remember that.
that was a quality
I'm
gimmick.
glad somebody does.
And I bought his Bob the Builder style helmet from Poundland in Marketgate in Lancaster. There's a little known fact. Anyway, I
Other
digress.
discount stores are available.
Moving on. What was I saying?
Dolph Ziggler.
Was it about Dolph Ziggler? Oh, yeah. So he started out as the caddy to Kerwin White, as Chavo Guerrero was known. He was also a member of the Spirit Squad. We saw the Spirit Squad make a great
male
comeback.
cheerleading troupe.
And I have to say, it looked to me like Mikey from the Spirit Squad this week on SmackDown had actually eaten the other two missing members of the Spirit Squad.
Maybe that's where they were.
Yeah. He'd been on the Spirits, by the looks of things.
Ah.
But anyway, but yes, he did that. And he had the other handshake gimmick we were talking about the other week, where he just used to go around saying, "Hi, I'm Dolph Ziggler." Not really things that were designed to particularly make him a main eventer, a champion. He was quite forgettable, wasn't he? But he's kept plugging away, hasn't he, Dolph Ziggler? And The Miz went back in time, found all the footage of these embarrassing gimmicks, put it on the screen. It was a fantastic put down. You're quite right, Mark. Once.
It was absolutely fantastic, and I even liked the women's match that's coming up on No Mercy. Wasn't massively excited by it. It's going to be good, but I wasn't massively excited. The thing they did on SmackDown this week, where it was Alexa Bliss versus one of the Bellas, I can't tell.
The one that still wrestles.
That's the one.
The one who's not pregnant.
That's the one.
The one with the jubblies.
Both have them.
No, they don't.
Both have them.
No, they don't. Nuh-uh.
Yeah, it's true.
No. Check again.
I'll
It's all right.
gladly check again.
We'll wait.
Gladly check again.
Okay,
I'll do that on my own time.
Yeah.
But yeah, that match turning into the tag team match, I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was a really good kind of preamble.
So you're looking forward to seeing Becky Lynch defend the SmackDown Women's Championship against
Massively
Alexa
so.
Bliss.
Massively so.
This Sunday on the WWE Network.
Indeed.
Right.
Other networks are available.
I'm not really, to be honest. I'm the two top matches I'm interested in. The rest of it, not so sure. And
I think the women's
to
match...
be honest with you, the worst thing in the world at the moment in wrestling is Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton.
Oh, come on.
Disagree.
Oh.
Strongly disagree with it.
I was watching a highlight of the Kane versus Bray Wyatt match on SmackDown this week, and Randy Orton appeared on the television upside down on the big screen on the Titantron and started talking in that monotone voice of his. And I was running on my treadmill at home, and I nearly fell off. Do you know the computer actually nearly logged itself out in boredom? It actually crashed.
While you're talking?
No. While Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt was on the screen.
Okay.
It's just not working for me.
Last week, we had Randy Orton wandering around in the dark backstage at the WWE on SmackDown.
Yeah.
This week, we had Bray Wyatt abandoned his match with Kane and wandered backstage in the dark looking for Randy Orton after Randy Orton appeared on the Titantron. And then Randy Orton locked him in a shipping container where he stayed for most of the show.
Was the shipping container known only as Skarsgård?
It wasn't, I'm afraid.
See,
no.
that's not good enough, is it?
It was a shipping container with a rocking chair in it. Bray Wyatt got locked in there, kicked off a little bit, shouted, "Walls can't contain me." They did for nearly 2 hours until Randy Orton went to unlock the door. Presumably, he's like, "Have you learnt your lesson, Bray?" And Bray was nowhere to be seen. The problem I have with this, right, Bray Wyatt is fantastic. He always will be. But they need to let him win some matches.
Yes.
They didn't even let him win a match over Kane in the go-home show before a pay-per-view, when ideally they want to make both guys look strong. Both guys look like credible competitors. And also, Randy Orton is terrible as a babyface because he's so naturally unlikable.
That's good guy, people who don't watch wrestling, by the way.
Why would they be listening to the show if they don't watch wrestling?
Because they like hearing three grown men arguing on the radio for an hour on a Thursday night.
It's true. True. Some people like EastEnders, some people like this.
Okay. Randy Orton is too unlikable to be a good guy.
Yeah.
He's naturally... I can't use words that are unbroadcastable, but yeah.
Genuinely couldn't care less about Randy Orton as a character. Could not care less about him. I just think he's one of those kind of... I think he is a mid-card, relatively just boring person to put on just whilst other people are getting ready and to pad the show out a little bit. That's just my view on it. Okay. Never been massively impressed with him. Always had a soft spot for Bray Wyatt. Ever since I got back into wrestling through yourself, he's been the guy that I just love him, love his character, love what he does in the ring. The promo itself, because it was mostly him doing him and his character, I thought it was wonderful. I thought the whole thing of the rocking chair being in there and him, talking about Sister Abigail, I thought... Yeah,
him kind of becoming like sort of his descent into madness over the couple of hours that he was locked in there.
Yeah, but him talking to his Sister Abigail and then disappearing, I thought was a beautiful bit of stagecraft.
When are we actually going to see Sister Abigail? I think this is what Bray Wyatt needs. We've had Bray Wyatt on his own. We've had Bray Wyatt with his cronies, the Wyatt family.
They've all buggered off.
They've all left. We've had him with different members of the... Braun Strowman came in as a new member of the Wyatt family. He's had Harper there, Rowan there. Daniel Bryan joined for a while, for about 2 weeks, I think it was. Why don't we bring in Sister Abigail? Let's actually have Sister Abigail become a WWE character.
I reckon she's a spooky ghost.
Yeah, I think she's supposed to be dead.
No, let's make her come to life. That'd be funny. It'd be good.
Undead Sister Abigail.
Let's do it.
Fair enough. On the other side of it, we had Raw this week, which I like to think of as last week's Raw, because I pretty much see the same matches every single week.
That's the new era, Mark.
Every single week.
Chris Jericho was the standout performer for me this week on WWE Raw. I have to say, I've not been impressed by Jericho and Owens when they were up against Enzo and Cass. Similarly, I wasn't impressed with the New Day when they were up against Anderson and Gallows. And this is where I think sometimes... chemistry comes in.
Yes.
You work well in both an in-ring and also a promo setting with the right opponent. And I just felt the New Day and Jericho and Owens, they just bounced off each other.
They worked really well.
The was free-flowing, the asides. It didn't feel like it was a scripted confrontation. There was some good little asides, and Jericho was absolutely brilliant, I thought. Yeah. And the list is starting to really get a reaction from the WWE fans. They enjoyed the list.
I thought it was really good. I want him because there was one thing he said that was skirted over, and that was him being him turning around to Kevin and saying, "We should go after the tag team titles. It's not like I'm going after yours."
Yeah,
I loved that line. I thought that was
a bit of seed planting going on there.
I want them to do something with that. Really do.
Yeah.
They may well do. They may well do. I don't know. I mean, Jericho's like a multiple-time champion. But then it's been rumoured that Jericho could be wrapping up his career sometime soon as well.
Yeah.
Which would be a shame. I mean, yeah, again. But he's getting on a bit. So
he's getting on a bit, and he's not one of the big guys that can bumble around. He's a small fella that runs and jumps and does quite a lot of physical stuff. He's not like an Undertaker who can just, waddle in there, pick someone up, throw him down, and go back out again.
I don't know. I mean, I think with Jericho, his character is so strong that he can get away with not really doing much physically. This is, you know, if your character is good enough, you don't need to be able to wrestle. I think many people have proven that over the years. But yeah, if he's on his way out, it'd be a shame to see him go because he's one of the best things in WWE currently. But I don't know. Who knows? And kind of coming back full circle to The Miz and Dolph Ziggler, again, without wanting to be too insidery and Markish. Sorry, Mark.
How very dare you?
It's also been suggested that Ziggler's contract is up in a couple of weeks' time.
Oh.
Now, on one hand, you could say, okay, so the Miz and Ziggler's match is a foregone conclusion. It's his way out, basically. It's their way of writing Ziggler out of the company. But could it also not equally be a way for kind of a bargaining chip for Ziggler to renew his contract, and that maybe a run with the Intercontinental title could be the carrot to get him to re-sign and stay with the company? In which case, I genuinely don't know which way that match is going to go.
Which is a good thing.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm saying. Rather than, Mark mentioned the women's match, I don't think anyone believes that Alexa Bliss is going to take the SmackDown women's title. As talented as she is, as a newcomer, it's just too soon. There's no way she can really be booked as a credible threat against Becky Lynch. But
unless that's the point. The whole thing about Becky Lynch not being not being the stereotypical champion, maybe that's the point of the match.
I don't buy it. I don't think for a moment that Alexa Bliss is going to take the title. I really don't. Whereas I feel that Ziggler could get the IC title. It's possible. It doesn't seem likely, but again, maybe as a way of getting him to re-sign, maybe they're going to say, well, okay, if you sign with us for another few years, you can have a go on the belt. We'll let you polish it and everything. Who knows? I don't know. I'll be watching on Sunday night to find out. Losing sleep.
What do you
this
think?
Show.
What do you think? Last thing on SmackDown. What do you think to this John Cena chasing the record of Ric Flair? Do you see this as they seem to be trying to push this as something extremely special, something really important? You know, Ric Flair holds the record 16 times world champion. John Cena's on 15. If he wins on Sunday night, he ties the record. Does that float your boat, Lewis, at all as an
really.
achievement? See, it doesn't me either.
No.
It doesn't me either. If you've won the championship 15 times, it means you've lost it 15 times as well. So
fair point.
You know, to me, it doesn't really mean as much as, for example, the Styx streak in Morecambe, because, you know, much as it pains me to say it, Styx, who, as we know, is retiring from Morecambe Wrestling on November the 12th,
yeah,
has not lost a match in Morecambe for nearly 9 years. You know, he's not lost 15 times. He's not lost at all.
No.
So, you know, to me, I think it needs something. And what I would suggest, little idea here, how about Ric Flair himself cost John Cena the match?
Yeah.
That could be interesting, because then it obviously shows the audience that this record means a lot to Ric Flair. It means so much to Ric Flair, he's willing to, at the age of well over 60 years old, put his body on the line to prevent someone else from breaking the record. Now, hopefully this would not lead to a match between Cena and Ric Flair, but it could lead to Ric Flair returning as a manager on SmackDown with managing someone, maybe AJ Styles. Maybe AJ Styles and Ric Flair joining forces. We did see this week AJ Styles in his promo say what a great champion Ric Flair was. Could that happen? A Styles-Flair alliance to stop Cena from making history.
But how long will that last? Because it can only last a certain amount of time until Cena gets lucky.
It only needs to. It only needs to last a certain amount of time, but it'll put a little bit more emphasis and more importance on this quest that John Cena is on, which at the moment is just leaving me a little bit cold.
Fair enough. Yeah. Happy with that? Any more thoughts on SmackDown this week?
Nope. I'll be honest.
Any thoughts at all from Raw?
Sheamus used a naughty word.
He did
on
use
a PG
a naughty
show.
word, yeah.
I have one thought.
He referred to
On
Cesaro
a pre-recorded bit.
as, let's say, an illegitimate child.
Yeah.
Let's. There's a word for that.
Yes.
Look it up, kids. And yeah, Sheamus. It wasn't kind of in a promo to camera. They were arguing as they arrived at the venue, and Sheamus referred to Cesaro as that. On a PG show, just a week after Charlotte referred to Sasha by a different surname.
Yes.
What's going on, Raw?
I just have one thought on Raw.
What's that?
Emelina.
It's a good point. Yeah.
The Aussie, it's been a good week for the Aussie girls. You know, taking my advice, basically. The Aussie girls. I know it's on NXT. What a good episode of NXT this week, I thought. Really enjoyed it. I'm glad the Dusty Rhodes Classic is back, because that creates a whole load of fresh matchups and a quest for people to get on that we actually care about. You know, the Dusty Rhodes Memorial Tag Team Tournament. And it was nice to see, aside from Emelina, it was lovely to see Emelina on Raw.
What was that? Why?
Just the pictures.
Okay.
But Peyton Royce and Billy
He's at that
Kay
age.
joining forces as a team in NXT was good to see. I enjoyed that. Rich Swann, I love Rich Swann.
He was fantastic.
Rich Swann is the man in the Cruiserweight division as far as I'm concerned. Great presence, great charisma, love his theme tune. They all dance along to it, sing along to it. He's great. And it's wonderful that he's teaming up with No Way Jose. My man, No Way Jose, and Rich Swann teaming up in the Dusty Rhodes Classic. That's going to be great. I love the Authors of Pain. It's just great to see a throwback, big, powerful monster team just come on and destroy your mates, the Bollywood Boys. You were having a chat about them earlier.
They're
like
not
them.
my mates.
You don't like them.
They cut a promo on this week's NXT where they threatened to deliver a butter chicken beatdown.
Okay. And your point is?
It seems a bit contrived.
Well,
they're Indian guys.
They're embracing their Indian heritage.
But I mean, for one thing, it's
not even
it's
a
not the
spicy
most
curry.
exactly. It's not the most obviously. You know what?
It's
exactly.
it's just a bland dish.
Why not a biryani beatdown? That would have made
that
more
would've been-
sense.
that'd have worked.
Yeah. A Madras mauling or something like that. Yeah, that would have been
Stealing my stuff again.
That would
He
have
is,
been good.
yeah.
But no one heard it. It was before the show, so I'm taking it. So that was great. Authors of Pain, love them. And I was also pleased to see Bobby Roode and Ty Dillinger take my advice from last week and change their team name to Glorious 10. So yeah, it's all. And Andre Cien Almas as a bad guy, much better. As Randy Crawford once said, Almas, pure and simple.
Did he say that?
As well before your time.
Was that hearsay?
Yes.
Well, them two, actually.
Yeah.
There you go. It was.
Fair enough.
It totally was.
Right, we'll play a song. We'll be back in a moment, and we'll talk fantasy wrestling.
Oh, yes!
And we'll have,
Fantasy Wrestling, new and improved, version 2.0.
and we'll have a phone call as well. Shall I do that phone call now?
No.
Oh, okay, fine. Fair enough. Here we
It's
go.
you told, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Lou, I've just had a thought.
Yeah.
This song,
Yes.
It-
a bit of Zack Ryder.
yeah, it pretty much just sounds like he's going, no, I am attractive. No, I am.
Yeah.
No, but I am attractive, though. No, you do like me. Go on.
I prefer the remix.
What, to Ignition?
No, to this song. I
Okay.
prefer the remix. They recently kind of retooled it for him and then forbade him after a couple of weeks from using it
Nice.
when they stuck him back with Mojo Rawley and he had to be one of the hype bros. Where he now comes out wearing sunglasses to disguise how dead his eyes are because, you know, he
I'm sorry, his
hates-
catchphrase was woo, woo, woo. You can't really, have that as a catchphrase and not be dead behind the eyes.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. So there we go. It's now time for
God.
fantasy wrestling. Let's see what happened this week. What are we using? What's the intro?
Austin. Because I'm in a fighting mood.
All right.
Fantasy wrestling. Fantasy wrestling. Fantasy wrestling report. Fantasy wrestling report. Fantasy wrestling report. Fantasy wrestling report. Fantasy wrestling report.
What was that?
That was Steve Austin. You don't hear the that's the glass breaking at the start.
Is that what that was supposed to be?
And it symbolises the breaking of the Fantasy Wrestling League and you two.
It
You
sound-
two militants.
Just the breaking of the league in general.
It
Because now
sounded
there
like
isn't
two
one.
worms on motorcycles.
A little bit, yeah.
So, as I said earlier, 7 militants. 7 militants went on strike.
Yeah, we
did not
did.
want to play by the rules.
That's right, goddammit.
Yeah,
Basically, the equivalent of the boy, the teenage boy, who's playing football on the field with his mates. Somebody scores a goal against him. He cries. He takes his ball home. He says, I'm not going to play football anymore. But the mates who remain go, well, we don't care because we're going to get our cooler friends and we're going in the bushes and we're going to drink a great big bottle of White Lightning because we don't need you anymore. And that's basically what's happened to the Fantasy Wrestling League.
Apart from football has set rules which people kind of follow and they're universally agreed upon.
Yeah.
But otherwise, you're exactly right because my friends are cooler and yeah, we are going to go and sit in the bushes and drink White Lightning.
Don't you think
what are you going to do about it?
Don't you think this is slightly ironic considering when all this kicked off? It's because
I'll tell you what I'm going to do about it.
He lost, took his ball and went home.
I will tell you what I'm going to do about it. Because the Fantasy Wrestling League will go on bigger and stronger than ever. I have responsibilities. I have responsibilities to Alan Rideout, to Shaheen Najafipur, to my son Owen Lambert, and to Evan Thompson, who did not go on strike, who played by the rules. And so, therefore, I'll tell you what I have done, Mark.
What have you done?
You and your 5 militant friends, you two, are out. You're
Okay.
gone. You're out of the Fantasy Wrestling League. I have got replacements.
I'll start my own Fantasy Wrestling League with
7 replacements, and I am going to list them right now.
Go on, then.
So, first of all, Silent Mark,
Yes.
out.
Right.
I have replaced you with. This gentleman got in touch with me after last week's show. He heard his name on last week's show. I actually didn't realise he existed. It was incredible. I thought you were joking when you mentioned this guy's name, but it turns out he's a real person. He got in touch with me through email, and I'm pleased to say that taking over your team is Smelly Frank.
Okay.
Smelly Frank is going to be the new manager of Silent But Deadly. Although he didn't want to call it that, we're going to actually call it Silent But Smelly. Smelly Frank, there you go. Well done, Smelly Frank. And he had a good week, actually. And bear in mind as well, that all the newcomers have all made a change because they had to bring their teams in the rules. They had no problem following the rules. So Bray Wyatt gone from Silent But Smelly, replaced by Ty Dillinger. Great choice, Smelly Frank. Well done. You've done well. Actually, you're in 3rd place at the moment, Smelly Frank, in the league table. So that's good stuff. Charles Nelson Riley, gone. Charles Nelson Riley is out. The manager of the only all-female team in fantasy wrestling, replaced by, and thank you very much for getting in touch with us this week, Harrison Ford. Really nice to hear from Harrison. I guess you think it's the real Harrison Ford. It's not. It's just a guy who's, from Westgate, who's, by coincidence has the same name. But it's great that he's got in touch. And Harrison, though, he thought that having 11 members of a team all of the same sex was a little bit sexist. So he's got rid of Eva Marie. Sorry, Charles Nelson Riley. Know how much you love Eva Marie, but I'm afraid Harrison doesn't agree. And he has replaced him with Bobby Lashley, and now the team is no longer known as Team Total Divas. It's known as Team Token Bloke. And they had a great week, Team Token Bloke, as well. 10 points, up to 34 points, 4th place in the Fantasy Wrestling League. Zara Thompson, you're gone. Toby Larone got in touch. That's right, Toby Larone. You're looking at me sceptically.
Or I'm sceptical about all of this.
Toby Larone.
Carry on.
Get on with it.
Yeah.
Contacted me. He wants to take over. He's got rid of Nakamura. Great choice, Toby. Replaced him with Dash Wilder, one half of the NXT Tag Team Champions, The Revival. Called his team name Toby Continued. Very clever. Very clever, that, actually, Toby. You should get a bonus point for that because you're continuing Zara's team and you're called Toby. Really good. Like that. And Ryan Gordon's gone. And thank you to Chris Brookbanks, very own, Beyond Radio's very own Chris Brookbanks, who I spoke to on Tuesday night.
Were you running out of names at this point?
No. What do you mean?
Nothing, carry on.
Chris Brookbanks, having a chat with him after my Beyond Radio show on a Tuesday night, The Resident, he said, I'd like to be in this. I know nothing about wrestling, but I'd like to be in it. And if these guys are pulling out, I'll take over Ryan Gordon's team. So he has done. Now known, previously known as the Bants World Order, now known as the Brookbanks World Order. And sadly, by the way, Chris begged me to keep Kota Ibushi. I know I said that I'd kick Kota Ibushi out of the league, but Chris asked me so nicely because he really liked his name. Chris knows nothing about wrestling. His change saw him swap out broken Matt Hardy for Braxton Sutter. Not perhaps the best thing to do, Chris, but Braxton was, he was on telly this week, so at least you got some points there. Anyway, Ethan Buckle's gone. I really struggled to get a replacement for Ethan's team. Nobody wanted to manage Ethan's team. I'm not really sure why, but I really struggled. But thank you very much to Gerg Trebmal. Gerg Trebmal got in touch.
Gerb Tregmal.
Gerg Trebmal.
You were really clutching at straws here,
What are you
weren't you,
talking
mate?
about? I think he's from Torizome, I think.
Right,
Yeah, he is,
okay.
yeah. Gerg Trebmal from Torizome. So he's taken over Team Why But Why. It's now known as Team Because, Just Because. And he swapped out Summer Rae for Eddie Edwards. That's an interesting choice. Extra TNA
The
person.
Eagle?
No. Eddie Edwards, the TNA guy.
Oh, okay.
I suppose you're wanting to know who's manager of your team now, Lewis.
Not at this point, no, Greg, to be honest with you.
Well, I got an email.
It's clear that you've just fabricated utter drivel.
Of course I haven't.
Utter drivel.
These are real people.
Basically, what you've decided to
I've
do...
had an email. No, shush, I've got an email. Just hear me out before you go on your rant.
Do you want to mute his mic for a second?
Hear me out. No, hear me out.
Go on.
Basically, what he's done, right, is he's just gone, I know, Lewis and these other 6 people are standing against me, so I'll write them out, and I'll just run my own 7 teams. That's basically what he's done. Okay,
Go on.
let him speak. Go on.
So I had a letter. Dear Greg, Mark, and Louise, I am sorry to hear that there has been a strike in the Fantasy Wrestling League, but I would like to save the day. I would like to put my name forward to take over a team. After all, I like wrestling and I like fantasy. It would be especially good to take over the Forces of Evil. I would call them the Forces of Keith. I am sorry about this, Louise, and I hope it will not affect our friendship. Yours, hopefully, Keith Slater. P.S. To celebrate me joining the league in advance, I created you, Greg, on my WWE 2K17 game. And you pinned Brock Lesnar. Clean. Well, thank you very much for that, Keith. That's very nice of you. So, yes, that was such a nice letter from Keith Slater, the hottest free agent in...
The problem is he didn't sign it
Community
off
radio.
the way he usually does. Though,
I'm not
Greg.
convinced that's
No.
really Keith.
No, that was definitely Keith. And Keith, I'm quite happy to take over Lewis's team. And he got rid of Shinsuke Nakamura again. Great choice.
Right.
And replaced him with my man, No Way Jose. Well done, Keith. And you had a decent week as well. Listen, right. You obviously don't believe me that these are real people.
No.
You don't believe me that I have actually been contacted by real people who want to take over the fantasy wrestling team.
What gave you that impression, Greg?
I'm going to prove it to you.
Okay.
I'm going to prove it to you. I want you to ring that phone number.
Right, hang on, okay.
But I want you to ring that phone number because there is one more team left. And this gentleman was falling over himself to be the replacement for Ryan Hunter's team.
Right.
Let's get him on air.
Let's get him on air. Fair enough.
And this will prove it. This will prove that it's all real. It's all legit.
Okay.
Can I go home yet?
See how this works. Not yet.
Oh.
Here we go. Hello?
Hello, you've reached the man for all seasons, Xander Cooper.
Oh, God.
Xander! Greg the Truth Lambert here. How marvellous to have you on this programme is scheduled for One Fall.
It's great to speak to you, Greg.
Xander, my co-presenters here on this show every Thursday night on Beyond Radio, Silent Mark and Evil Lewis, were sceptical that you have actually joined our Fantasy Wrestling League team. They think that this was all made up, but I have actually proven it is true. You have taken over Ryan Hunter's team. Is that correct?
It is correct. I have taken over his team. I've completely rebranded it. It is now called the Team for All Seasons. And you know what? I'm going to whip that team into shape. And we're going to go right to the top of the league because, as I'm sure you're aware, Greg, I am one hell of a coach. I am one hell of a leader. And I can take that all the way to the top of the league.
You certainly are, Xander, and what a fantastic team name as well. Being the man for all seasons, I cannot think of anything more appropriate. Just to let the listeners know, who maybe have not been following Alpha Omega Wrestling, I can't understand why, particularly since you've been in it over the past few months. It's improved massively. You are the mentor.
That's very kind of you.
Well, it's true. That's why they call me the truth. You know, you are the mentor of young Ryan Hunter, who is a rookie in professional wrestling, who trained in Morecambe, and you know, you have taken his career to new heights, but he doesn't seem to be listening to you, Xander. What's going on there?
He is a rookie who should be listening to veterans. That is what the professional wrestling business is built on. Now, Ryan Hunter, he seems to... I don't know what he was thinking. At our last show at the Golden Chance Rumble, I asked him, I told him, I said, you do this for me. You throw yourself over the top rope so I can go on to glory. He said no. He said no, and it baffled me. This boy, this young rookie, he clearly doesn't understand the bigger picture, and that is the problem with young rookies in wrestling today. They don't understand what the veterans need them to do. Ryan Hunter, he needs to learn that. And I'm going to start, well, number one, I'm going to start with his fantasy wrestling league, take them all the way to the top, and then November 12th at the Morecambe Winter Dome, I'm going to take Ryan Hunter back to school, and I am going to make him realise what the bigger picture is.
I mean, that's going to be an amazing match. I mean, we saw the video on the Alpha Omega Wrestling website where Stallion, in one of his last acts as alpha male, because he's now been suspended for making ridiculous decisions, but he put a stipulation on your match with Ryan Hunter on November the 12th at the Morecambe Winter Gardens. If Ryan Hunter somehow, with basically a 10-minute stint on a tanning bed and a drop kick and very little else, somehow manages to beat the man for all seasons, I mean, I can't even believe I'm even entertaining the idea, he will be free of you and get a full contract with Alpha Omega Wrestling. But if you win, which I would say is pretty much certain at this point, he will no more insubordination from Ryan Hunter, Xander. He will have to do by contract everything that you tell him to do.
Well, I can assure you, Greg, I'm going to walk in and I'm going to walk out with a personal assistant. Ryan Hunter, he needs to learn. This is the thing that Ryan Hunter doesn't quite understand. I am what he needs to take him to the next level. He doesn't need the fans. He doesn't need all the clapping of hands. He doesn't need all their cheers. He needs me, the man with 10, 11, 12 years of experience, to carry him to the top of the mountain. But he's not going to do that if he doesn't start listening to me. He needs to start listening to me so that he can get to the next level. But you know what? He's not. He disrespected me. So as far as I am concerned, it's all business for me now. If he wants to put his livelihood on the line in that sense, I'm going to have to beat him. I'm going to have to teach him a lesson. He can be my personal assistant and help. I'll just make his life a living hell.
And when you win the match, what kind of things would you have Ryan Hunter do? What kind
It's
of
a family show.
Well,
It's a family show, Greg. You can't say that.
No, I'm talking about, no, when Xander wins the match, I'm interested to find out exactly what kind of humiliation he's going to put Ryan Hunter through, what kind of dues he's going to make Ryan Hunter pay.
Again, family show.
Well, for a start, I'll have some, my tights will need washing. He can deal with them. He can then sort out polishing my boots. He can then sort out all the emails that I've got to answer, because I'm a very busy man, Greg, and with a personal assistant, that load will be lifted, and then I can help the other people within the wrestling industry that want my help. And Ryan Hunter, he's missed that help now. So along with all the washing, along with all the polishing, he can come down to the Future Shot School. He can do all the sweeping and hoovering, and he can do everything there so that I don't have to, so that my students don't have to. Ryan Hunter will pay every due that I can possibly think of. Every uncomfortable thing that anyone could do within wrestling, Ryan Hunter will probably end up doing that within the first week. Then more.
Xander, Silent Mark here. Thanks for coming on the show. One question, I'm going to play devil's advocate here for a second, if I may. What happens if you lose?
Sorry, I don't understand the question. What do you mean if I lose?
Well, to be fair, over the last few matches that you've had with him, if it wasn't for shenanigans and distractions, he would have beaten you a couple of times. Are you not worried about it?
I'm so sorry this is radio, but you can't see the look of sheer bafflement on my face. Look, Ryan Hunter, you may think he's got a bright future ahead of him. You may think that he's got some sort of talent, but that talent needed to be moulded by me, and he's thrown that out the window. That he has never even come close to beating me at any point. okay? Ryan Hunter simply does not have the skill set to beat me. So as far as I'm concerned, after the show on November 12th, he's going to be my personal assistant. He's not going to have a contract or anything else. He's just going to walk out of that building carrying my suitcase, taking it straight to the wash basket so he can wash all my gear. That's what he's going to be doing.
Fair enough.
Well, I can't wait to see that, Xander, personally. And may I say, what an amazing first decision that you made as well. Because Ryan Hunter, he didn't leave you with the best of squads, really. He was kind of running the fantasy wrestling team into the ground. But you very smartly went in straight away and drafted in Dolph Ziggler into your fantasy wrestling team. And after a tremendous week on Smackdown, Dolph Ziggler is actually my star of the week this week, gaining the team for all seasons a bonus 10 points, rocketing you up to 5th place in the Fantasy Wrestling League in your very first week, Xander. That's the kind of managerial mentorship, the skills that you're going to bring to fantasy wrestling.
Well, if it's one thing I know how to do, it's wrestle. And if it's another thing I know how to do, it's book a fantasy wrestling league.
Absolutely.
So I might just be 5th now, but you know what? There are other big decisions that I'm going to make, and I'm going to take that team to the top.
I can't wait to see it. The team for all seasons, the man for all seasons, Xander Cooper, live this evening on this programme is scheduled for 1-4 on Beyond Radio. Sir, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And I'll let you go back to your trainees at the fantastic Future Shot Wrestling School in the Manchester area, because I'm sure you'll be teaching them everything that they know, but not necessarily everything that you know.
Well, that's the way I operate, Greg. Thank you for having me on. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for coming on, so take care. There we go.
So there you have it. Proof positive. This is not a charade. This has not been made up. I have found replacements, and I have found better replacements than you and the rest of your militants ever could be. The Fantasy Wrestling League survives. Dummy of the week, by the way, was Daniel Bryan. I just don't like the way he laughs. But anyway, Fantasy Wrestling League goes from strength to strength, and you have been struck dumb, my two slightly aging, balding, chubby friends.
Less of the balding, all right?
I'm talking about him.
Yeah,
okay.
That'll be me.
Fair enough.
Right, we'll be back in a second. Nearly the end of the show, so we'll be back in a second with our thoughts
Utter
for No Mercy.
Garbage.
I know, yeah.
You can look, but you can't touch. You keep dreaming on the stars above. You keep dreaming on the stars above. I can see that
I still go shenanigans. Still go shenanigans. I'm not happy.
I don't have. Well, I do have the words,
You
but
spoke
they
to
would
the
get
man.
us thrown off air.
We'll
You
do it
spoke
on-
to the man.
We'll do it on the network.
I have found replacements, and we had the
No,
best
we've
replacement
heard
live on air. The man for all seasons, Xander Cooper, was live on air talking to you. That was not a recording. That was not a figment of your imagination.
Great.
That was the
Great.
man for all seasons. So
Great.
he's replaced Ryan Hunter and created the team for all seasons.
Good for you.
And Fantasy Wrestling League. The only fantasy wrestling league on the radio. You tried to sabotage it. You tried to ruin it. You failed.
Take out a praise. Stop the presses. Greg Lambert makes more garbage decisions in wrestling. You know, why am I
So
not
hang on a
surprised?
second. We've got one person that is we've heard is actually
Basically,
real.
you've added another person to the league, essentially, but decided to run the rest of the teams yourself.
Yeah.
No,
Rather than,
I mean, 'cause obviously
rather
there's
than admit
there's a-
defeat.
Rubbish.
There's a name I made up last week. You were obviously watching Star Wars and just making up names as you go along, and then you saw Brooke Banks the other day and thought, I'll use him.
Toby Larone is from Nether Kellet. And Smelly Frank's from the West End.
That's a lot of crap, and you know it, Greg.
Honestly, seriously, he's probably in a...
There is
Ali
probably,
Albert
there
Road.
is
You know what?
probably a guy in the West End who's called Frank and is smelly, but that has nothing to do with what we're just
Do
talking
you know
about.
what? I'm going to start my own fantasy wrestling league with blackjack and hookers.
Yes.
In fact, forget the blackjack and the fantasy wrestling.
Yes. And the hookers.
You just saw losers.
Wait.
Anyway, one guy who's definitely not a loser, and that is my man, the man I manage in Alpha Omega Wrestling. The priority, your priority, should be everybody's priority, to be fair. Chris Ridgway, the notorious RID, the Ridmeister General. The next bona fide star in wrestling today. He's coming back to Morecambe Winter Gardens on November the 12th. It's been announced on AOWUK.com this evening that Chris Ridgway, I have negotiated a top opponent for him. I feel really sorry for this guy because I quite like him, if I'm being honest. I like his theme music. I like the way he entertains the crowd. I have no problem with him on a personal level, apart from the fact that once in a charity football match when I was managing against him, he banged in a 25-yard free kick in the last minute in the top corner and we lost. Other than that, I have nothing against him whatsoever, and that is the model Delicious Danny Hope. It's going to be Chris Ridgway against Delicious Danny Hope. Remember on November the 12th. I feel bad for Danny because, as you know, if you've been watching Chris Ridgway over the past year and a half, he basically makes his opponents quit Morecambe Wrestling. He gets rid of them. He got rid of El Ligero. He got rid of Craig Collins. He got rid of Johnny Fear. I mean, really, although I have publicly on this show said that Nathan Cruz should take credit for retiring Styx, Styx's physical disintegration began when he wrestled Chris Ridgway last year. So really, by proxy, Riddy got rid of Styx as well. He is the man who makes people quit Morecambe Wrestling, and he's going to do the same to Danny Hope, I'm afraid. It pains me to say it. He has an extremely painful submission hold, the bear tooth clutch. It destroyed Craig Collins' shoulder to the point that he needed surgery. He hasn't been seen since March of this year, might never come back. Similar sort of thing with Johnny Fear. Don't know what's happened to Johnny Fear. He's probably making an exercise video somewhere. I don't know. But the fact is, that's what Chris Ridgway does. He makes people quit Morecambe Wrestling. That's what he's going to do to Danny Hope on November the 12th. I'm going to be in his corner. It's going to be great.
The guy's a douche.
Actually, didn't he beat you at once as well?
Yeah.
Well, that
hence,
might happen again if you don't
guy's
take
a
the
douche.
bass out of your voice.
The bass out of my voice. I can't do that. I'm sorry
you
for having
need
such
to.
a manly voice, Greg. Something you'd know nothing about, clearly. I've got no love lost for Chris Ridgway, obviously. I'm hardly going to be his biggest fan, regardless of the questionable way that he's conducted himself over the last year and a half, couple of years he's been involved in Morecambe Wrestling. As you rightfully pointed out, yes, he beat me up a year or so ago.
And the fans are well.
I was asking him a perfectly innocent question about an upcoming match.
That's an irrelevance now.
It's not irrelevant at all.
The Morecambe fans, you see the Morecambe fans on Facebook this evening, oh, we don't like Chris Ridgway. He got rid of all our favourites. Well, I'm sorry, Morecambe Wrestling fans. And, I bet you're going to stand up for them, Lewis, just like you tried to rally together your little troops in your Arthur Scargill, Che Guevara, failed revolution. Yeah. I mean, who wants to be a man of the people when there's people like you?
A lot of people,
as the Arctic
clearly.
Monkeys once said.
Like at least 6 other people. The majority. Anyway, aside from that, what? So now you're going to criticise me because I'm going to stand up for the fans of Morecambe Wrestling, the Alpha Omega fans, the fantastic fans who turn up in their hundreds every 2 months.
They give Chris Ridgway grief, and Chris Ridgway is a premier athlete. They basically said, "Oh, we don't want Chris Ridgway back. We don't like him." They don't appreciate his skills. They don't appreciate the fact that he's wrestling all over the country for ICW.
They don't
appreciate PCW. He's going to Europe. He's making a name for himself.
Well, they don't appreciate.
He's one of the best in the country right now. They don't appreciate him, and he's going to punish them. Much as I just said that I, don't mind Danny Hope as a human being. We're going to make an example of him. We're going to make him quit Morecambe Wrestling too. And we're going to make all the Morecambe fans, all the job seekers in the front row, we're going to make them cry.
Those job seekers in the front row are paying your wages.
It's true.
No, they're not. Chris Ridgway's paying my wages. I'm contracted to him as his manager.
Really?
That's how it works.
Really?
Right. Well,
you say they don't appreciate him. What they don't appreciate is the fact that he is an arrogant scumbag. That's why they don't appreciate him. If he conducted himself better, I'm sure that the fans would warm to him. But that's not what he's interested in. He's just interested in picking up cheap victories by whatever means necessary, which is clearly why you've got such an affiliation with him.
Right, we'll carry on with this next week, gents, because we're out of time today. You guys will carry on this argument probably after the show.
Do you know what?
Thank you all very much indeed for listening to the show today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Keep your eye on the TPISFOF network. You'll see the backlash and also the podcast for this week. Until then, ladies and sirs, my name is Silent Mark. Eva Lewis is sat there. Greg Lambert is sat across from me, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.